Thank you for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having us.
inviting
Zibby, I
us.
wanted to say I'm sorry about your, I follow you and I'm sorry about your mother-in-law. I
Oh,
really
I,
am.
Oh,
I
That is
saw
a
that as
shame.
well. I'm
thank
so
you
sorry
so
to hear
much.
that.
Thank you. Here, wait, let me turn off my. Thank you. Yes, it's been a crazy time, and I just started doing podcasts again, and now I feel like I can at least have my old shred of my personality back, and life goes on type of thing. Not that I don't think about them
Of
all the
course.
time and
Yeah.
write about them all
Yeah.
the time, but at least I can like put on a happy face and chat and all
Yeah.
the rest. So thank you. I appreciate your saying something. But on to your book. All this time. First of all, so good. Did not see
Thanks.
any of the twists and turns coming.
Thank you.
I hate when I have to admit that because I feel like I read something like, no, I should know, like, be prepared. But oh my gosh, what just heart-rending story, and I'm so glad I got to read it early.
Thank you for reading it.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me, for people who don't know what All the Time is about, can you just tell them a little more about the story, and also following your huge success with 5 Feet Apart, what it was like sort of embarking on another project?
I would say it's I'm hesitant to say what it's about, you know why, but it's about love and loss and how we overcome that and the people we find to help us through, and how dreams play into that, and how the things that we want can become reality, or reality may not be what it seems, in the sense that, when we lose something, we're caught in this maelstrom of pain and sorrow and guilt sometimes, and it really sometimes takes a helping hand to get out of that. And on occasion, that helping hand becomes the person you were always meant to be with. So that's really, I think, all I can say without grenading the rest of it. Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah. And I think that was something that really drew me to this story. And also 5 Feet Apart, in a way, was just kind of the exploration of grief and kind of like the twists and turns that journey in particular takes. So yeah, I absolutely love that bit when I read the screenplay from Mikki.
The way it came about in this sense was 5 Feet Apart. I don't know. It was really the strangest, the way that we got the book written, because it was exact opposite of what normally happens, which is there's a book and then they buy the movie rights and there's a movie. But in this case, there was a movie that was being made, and they were like, this would probably make a really good YA novel. Let's reverse engineer it. So that's kind of how that came about. And when Rachael came on board, she adapted the screenplay from 5 Feet Apart, and we were already filming. So in this case, it all happened. Justin Baldoni, the director of 5 Feet Apart, had a friend, Claire Wineland, who had CF, and she told him, I can't ever be with someone with CF, someone who would understand me, because we're not allowed to touch each other or even get within 6 feet of each other. And that really sparked with him an idea for a story. And then I wrote the screenplay for that, and Rachael adapted it. And Justin found me through the screenplay I had written this story. So that's kind of what happened. So when 5 Feet Apart was such a success, and we were like, what would be a really good sister book to this? What would be a good companion piece kind of thing? Because I really feel like the tone is the same. It's a similar feel. It's a similar, definitely a similar genre, but it's got all the same hallmarks, I think, as 5 Feet Apart, in the sense, but it's a totally different. But it's like your cousin who looks just like you, but is nothing like you. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. And so this is the script that he read of mine that made him want to hire me to write 5 Feet Apart and to come up with that story. So it felt like the perfect companion piece. And so Rachael and I was like, hey, you want to do another one? Like, here's another script. Yeah. Here's another script. Do you want to take it in? And the funny thing about this one is, and honestly, and it was an adult script. The original piece, my original work, was an adult script. It wasn't a YA, and it was a pretty easy shift though to rejigger it and to re-break it really to fit a YA format. You just age them down. Their concerns are different. I can tell you a lot about the original. It's heavier. It's much more painful. And you can see, Zibby, having read this, where if you age that up and give them a family and give them, where it goes from there, and it's a
handle that
right, and it's a whole different. We can't talk about it. If it were out, I could be like, blah, 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 blah. This is everything that happened. But just that, and it came from there, and then I aged it down. I went back through the script and said, okay, let's make this. Let's take some of this drama, not the drama, but let's take some of this adultness, out of it, and go for what are important to young people just starting their lives, instead of people who are in their lives. So that's kind of how it came about. I am a chatty chatter, so you have to shut me down when I'm talking.
The thing about this book that really hit me too is that I felt like I could relate not only to the main characters but also the mom.
Oh my God, I love her.
That ages me somewhat. I'm 44, not to not like I'm ancient.
Hi.
But and I don't.
I'm right there with you.
But I felt like her pain and the fact that she had lost her husband and her trying to, your child's pain is almost worse than your own pain, probably is worse than your own. Actually is, I should say. Mm-hmm. So her watching the pain that Kyle has to go through. Kyle's my husband's name too, by the way.
I saw that.
Was really got me too. And the way that she just you didn't go into it too much. You could just see by her actions how she was feeling. And it just broke my heart. It just, the whole thing. Anyway.
Thanks. I really wanted there to be a family situation that wasn't the, oh, I hate my mother. Oh, I hate, because they're so that is a reality for a lot of people where they're, constantly in that battle with their mother. But I wasn't. So there are relationships with teenagers who have really great relationships with their parents. And I kind of wanted to speak to that in this one, instead of it being, his mother is not his problem. You see what I mean? Yeah. And it's, I didn't want that to be some kind of situation there where we're focused more on he's fighting with her and he's trying to break away from her. Instead, he's trying to he's lost he's lost what he thinks is the love of his life at the beginning of the book. And I think I can say that it's on page 3.
Okay.
And I also think another element of that really spoke to me was just the fact that she is a single mother and they have this really deep connection because, for so long it's just been kind of the two of them in a lot of ways, against the world, similar to Will in 5 Feet Apart. And I just love that, he was suffering so much, and you would see her at the door trying to connect to him, trying to find a way to, get that open the dialogue back up like it had used to be. So yeah, I really just love the portrayal of, the single mother, like my mom fighting it out. You guys go through everything together. You always have her, you always have that connection, that person that is always in your court, always trying to, think of your best interests, to help heal your heart however they can. So that was really a cool part of the story for me too.
So true. By the way, Rachael, I was looking at your Instagram and your wedding pictures are so I just had to say those dresses and oh my gosh. And
oh gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm still in a state of
that, you can research somebody and know the innermost moments, most private moments, but anyway.
It's I was there. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. No, but definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I also really liked how Kyle is sort of getting over a football injury, and that it's sort of at one point that's the worst thing he could ever possibly imagine to happen. Mm-hmm. And then
yes,
in life, what you think is the worst thing ever suddenly gets put into perspective and something even worse comes along. And you're oh gosh,
you're this is rock bottom. Yeah, and then it is not.
Really I thought that was a big deal. But I feel injured athletes, my husband Kyle was an athlete as well. I guess he is an athlete, but he was in the professional tennis world for a long time, and he used to play football and all this stuff. And when he stopped, it was like a whole big thing, right? What does an athlete do who's not really doing their thing anymore? And I think there's not that much, because I remember at the time I was like, well, let me find you some articles and let me find you some books. And I was like Googling, like, come on, there's so many athletes out there this happens to. There must be a ton of literature. And of course, I'm like more into fiction. But it was just nice to see that here. And I know it's just one injury, but just what happens when your dreams stop and it involves your body and instead of just your mind. So tell me a little bit about choosing that.
That was part of the aging down, actually, to turning it into a YA. It's like, well, what is important? What would be important to this guy? And it's exactly like you said. I wanted to give him something that he thought was his life. He think this is going to be it. This is forever. I've got it planned out. It's everything, and he hinges every part of his personality and his worth kind of on that. And when that's taken away from him, he turns to his girlfriend and kind of puts all that weight on her. And we get to see at the very beginning what that weight has done to them. And that was it was a big part of the aging it down for YA, to give him something that he thought was his whole world, that he could lose in a shattering way and think, oh my God, it's the end, it's over. And we're like, oh Betty, no. Oh hun. No. There's a bigger world out there, and it gets a lot worse.
Yeah, and I think that particular aspect spoke to me on two levels. One was on a very personal level. I was a huge athlete growing up. And like my freshman year of high school, I played 3 varsity sports, and it was like my thing. And then I had spinal fusion surgery going into my sophomore year, because in my head, I was like, I could heal up, I could play junior year, maybe still get into college. And then, I just had this huge like crisis of conscience where, I just could not play sports. I was healing and I was recovering. And, all of a sudden I wasn't an athlete. My body wasn't necessarily my temple anymore. So I kind of had to look around at my life and see what was still there, what was important to me, what I liked doing, when this huge aspect of my personality that was so big when I was, 13, 14 years old, like what else there still was. And another element was back when I was in college, I wrote part of a manuscript that was about a boy who was in a really bad accident and kind of.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Really? Yeah. He played football.
You didn't know any of this.
Oh my gosh.
You guys a little,
We're just surprising everybody today.
We say that. Yeah, we say that things cross over sometimes. It's really weird. I'm like,
no, definitely.
That in there.
No,
I didn't know that. I didn't know you wrote anything like that.
Yeah, I started writing a manuscript about a boy who was a football player who got into an accident and kind of his entire life changed. He could no longer play.
Oh wow, totally.
Yeah, so
right out of your head then.
No, like when I read the manuscript, I was like, oh, this is like it, but like way better. So it panned out. It kind of felt like it was a character that I knew and kind of a scenario that I understood a little bit of. So it was cool.
And why did you originally have spinal fusion surgery?
Oh, I had scoliosis. So my spine was just like not doing the thing it should have been doing. So yeah, just straightened it out.
I mean, I guess with writing, at least, unless your fingers are, it's so different.
Just don't break your fingers.
Yeah, just don't break your fingers. Yeah.
Break everything else. Just don't break your fingers.
So how do you two work? How do you do it? Like tell me your process, how the magic happens.
Well, this one is different. I have a full-time writing partner, Tobias Iaconis. I always want to call him Iaconis now because my telephone calls him, my phone pronounces his name phonetically. But one of these days I'm going to literally say his name wrong. But it's Tobias Iaconis. And we write our screenplays together, not necessarily this one, but we do a lot of writing together. Rachael and I have worked so far only in the sense that I have given her a fully formed, fully fleshed out screenplay with the dialogue and a lot of the prose. And so she adapts that. She's adapted that with 5 Feet Apart, and with this one, she's adapted those stories into the books. So it's a little bit of a different process where we don't like, oh, sorry.
No. Like, are you a part of the adaptation or do you just hand it off?
She's a part. it's especially with this one, with all this time, yeah, like a huge part. A lot of, I think with 5 Feet Apart, it had just gone into production. So I think a lot of that was her reshaping that screenplay. And I would keep getting emails like blue edition or purple edition or pink edition as they started going into production. And I think a lot more of that was like her, you know, sending it to me. And we obviously had long phone calls, especially at the beginning, where she was telling me everything in detail. I would ask questions and I could always bounce everything off of her. But yeah, especially with all this time, we had a conversation about it a couple days ago, actually, just talking about how she felt that, I think it was the scenes were just super detailed. It was almost already in book form at a lot of times, you know.
Oh, I know what you're saying. I was talking like, what are you talking about? No, she's, we were talking about when you get a production script, it's very lean, you know, on details. It's mostly dialogue because all of the set design, all that stuff is taken out of it because they've done the work already. And what I gave Rachael for all this time was a very meaty, it was very, because I knew it was going to her and not to like into production. I knew it was going to her. So I was able to really give her a beefy script. So it was kind of a quasi script novel-y thing. So that's what,
somewhere in the middle. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely, it isn't just like a complete handover. It's very much, you know, I always have Mikki on call. She's looking through everything, commenting, changing, revising.
I know Rachael does not get any sleep. It's just like, oh my God, there she is again.
And so this book, sorry if I'm like feel a little slow on this. And I'm sorry for the sirens also. This book has, and you said you started with the screenplay. So is this already in production? Like, are you?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Lionsgate has bought the rights to the book and for the movie. But this started, like I said, from the original screenplay that was the adult version. And then I aged it down. And when I aged it down, I kind of like filled in a lot of the stuff about what it would be. But it was in chunks. It was, I would be writing, you know, the editor, Alexa, would come back and say, maybe there are some scenes that this could happen. So I would write the screenplay scenes and then give them to Rachael and she would adapt them. So it's kind of like how we had our little wheels greased, you know, the way we work together, like two little cogs with Alexa cranking it.
No, definitely. Yeah. Like I would get a draft. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I would get a draft back that would have notes from Alexa, but then I would also get additional scenes from Mikki as well. That would, you know, that would just be additional parts of the story to fill out certain scenes, certain characters, certain backstories. So it would be both at the same time and then integrating them together into the next draft that I would turn into both of them.
Got it. And then, so now that I finally have gotten this process down, so then when
it's
5 Feet Apart became a movie, were you a part of that, Mikki? Because you had written that.
I was on set. And the funniest thing is when it was really close to production when they said, hey, Simon & Schuster wants to turn this into a book. And so, as Rachael was saying, she got a script and then I was on set and I would be like, oh, we're changing this scene right now. I wonder if Rachael has gotten to this scene yet. And I would quickly text her and be like, Rachael, have you done this yet? And she's like, I'm working on it right now. I'm like, stop, we're changing it. You know, so we get a lot of comments. They're like, oh my God, the movie is so close to the book. We're like, well, yeah. Because it was literally, I was
like, oh,
write that yet. Here's what's happening. And I would like shoot her off some pages, you know. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay. I think I have it all straight. And I saw that you're already working on a third one. Are you doing that together? Is that
Rachel? Nope. I'm working on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working on a third book. I can't talk about it as of yet, but yeah, I'm currently working on it. I'm in my second draft of it. So I'm deep in the edits. Deadline is coming up. But yeah, that one's just a solo one. And Mikki's also working
I'm back in movie world.
Yeah.
Okay, so
many a thing.
What are you working on in the movie world?
Dirty Dancing.
No
with
way.
the sequel with Jennifer Grey. And it's, I can't say anything, obviously, about it, but that's really exciting. And then Tobias and I have a children's horror movie at Netflix that's going into production in about a month. They're setting up in Toronto right now, building the sets and hiring everyone. And so that'll go in, hopefully. You never know what's going to happen, but hopefully that keeps trucking along. Yeah, so I shifted seamlessly right back into my movie, movie writing, screenwriting. I'm like, what is that word?
What's that thing that I do? No.
Yeah. Screenwriting. So yeah, maybe another novel for me at some point that I write, but we'll see. Right now I'm firmly entrenched in making movies.
So neat. So did you already finish writing Dirty Dancing too? Or are you
working on the second draft right now?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's any secret that we're writing. So we're writing.
No, I mean, they announced it was going to be a movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, someone has to write it.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, I'm sure it's probably linked to you somewhere, but Jennifer Grey has become a friend of Kyle's and mine.
She's amazing.
Met her through another friend, and then we've all like gotten together and in LA. And anyway, so this is like so great. So I'm going to have to find, not close friend, obviously, but I'm going to have to find a way to barge myself onto that.
Oh my God!
I've never really been on a movie set before.
Do it. It'll be a little bit. It'll be. I'm not sure when they're planning on shooting, but there's a ton still to do. But yes, you should get your ticket now.
If people ever are out and about and on sets again, and
if that happens, I know. Well, they're doing it. It's really I don't know how much you know about it, but like in Toronto, and rightfully so, they're being very, very careful. But like they fly you in, they're not letting many people in, and you have to stay in strict quarantine for 2 weeks. Like if you're in a hotel, you can't come out of your hotel room, and the police come by every day to check if you're still there. This is what I've heard, and I know that it's true because they're working on night books up there. So, and if you're caught out at all, it's a $750,000 fine per incident.
What?
Per incident. So if don't fuck around, so they're not. Canada's not playing, but they're filming.
750,000. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Per incident.
My gosh.
Incident.
Ooh.
Gosh.
So
the people who like made that up, and they're sitting there. How much should we make it?
Let's make it prohibitive. Don't you dare walk out. Yeah. I mean, it's like if you walk out of your room to get a soda in those 2 weeks. Yikes. But then once your 2-week quarantine is up, and this is, like I said, this is what I've heard from them setting up for night books. When your 2-week quarantine is up, you're out and about. You're part of the community. You wear your mask, but there's no more. It's more lenient. You just you go about work and your life and stuff. But yeah,
that's amazing. Well, good luck with that.
I'm not going. We're staying home for this one. We're skipping this one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Normally we would go, but it's very prohibitive when we're working on this other, we're working on Dirty Dancing, and we don't want to, it's a lot of restrictions to not be able to move freely and do the work that we need to do otherwise.
So what kind of books do you two like to read in your spare time? If you like to read. Maybe you don't like to read. Maybe you're not a movie person. And
oh no, I'm totally a reader. I love
make any assumptions,
I'm a writer who doesn't read. I'm sure they are there. I love British novels. I find that I really tend to lean toward Australian. Like I love Leon Moriarty. Like she's so much fun. Anything she writes, I'm in it for a fun little romp. And then I love Kazuo Ishiguro. Like he's probably my favorite. And Julian Barnes, like those two British guys, I can't even. And everything is it feels so small, but it's so huge. And the fact that they are able to have such an impact in such a realistically grounded world that that they write about. And it's like you're there, like Remains of the Day. I mean, just stop, And I love Gabriel Garcia Marquez, obviously, 100 Years of Solitude. How are you a writer and not like married to that book? I mean, that's just the epic masterpiece of all time. Those are the kind of things I read when I read. And then I read a lot of 1930s and 40s novels. Like I find, because it's really fun because it's of the time, right? So you're reading about, like The World's Illusion is a really good one. It's very political, but I really love it. And, set in the times of, industry workers and how they were treated, but it's a narrative. So it's really, really, I like stuff like that. I'm kind of a weirdo. I kind of live in the past for sure.
No, definitely. Yeah, I read all different kinds of things. I'm a huge fan of Nina LaCour. She's probably my favorite YA author. I talk about her a lot. Her book, We Are Okay, is absolutely my favorite. I really love it. A lot of times there's a conversation between like plot-based and character-based stories, and I just love that. It's essentially just a book of a girl like alone in her room drinking tea and like reflecting on life and grief and all these other things. It's a very quiet book, but so much happens. And she's just so talented at saying like exactly what needs to be said and nothing more and nothing less. And I just love that. Oh man, other books that I really love. I love Laura Taylor Namie's book coming out later this year, Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. Absolutely fell in love with that. It's wonderful. And it's also set in the UK in Britain. So that's a really great read. I'm also a huge fan of mysteries. My favorite is Agatha Christie. Speaking on, you like turned my brain on the British thing, so I'm gonna keep going on it. But I really love the Miss Marple mysteries. That's like classic feel good read, especially during like the craziness of the past few months. I've been tucking into a couple of my favorite one of those, and I also really love the BBC episodes that they did on them. So yeah. Those are probably my favorite.
What advice would you guys have for aspiring authors or screenwriters?
That's the question, right?
Yeah, right.
Work your ass off.
Yeah.
Don't expect any favors. If you get a favor, be grateful. And I always say this, once you start getting there, please don't buy your own hype, because it's easy, I think, to think that you did it by yourself and to think that that it's all you and you're so important, you're so vital. Yeah. I mean, maybe, but a lot of cooks go into the kitchen. I mean, a lot of cooks are in the kitchen, and a lot of the flavor, whether I can only speak for myself. I hate saying that, ubiquitous you, but I can speak for myself that at the end of the day, I've done the work, but it's everybody around me and their opinions that I trust and respect and love. And, they're all in there. Everybody, the stew is better with a lot of flavor, if that makes sense, So I take everybody's salt and pepper and I throw it in there. I'm like, let's see what happens, but I definitely would say, and I say this, pretty much every time asked, is you may, if you're doing it alone, don't be afraid to reach out and let people help you. Even a bad note is a good note in a way, because it's going to expose something that may be missing, and they may not be telling you in the right way. This not exactly, but it's something that we call in the business the note behind the note, which is, I really wish he did this here. Well, that's not really the issue. The issue is something's missing in that moment that makes them wish for something different. And that's what you have to get to. But without that bad note, you wouldn't look at it yourself and say, oh, there's a hole here, Rambling again. I write much better than I speak, just let me say.
That was like perfect. I feel like I shouldn't even go now after that, honestly.
Well, what do you have for new, and what do you have for new and up and coming writers? Because that's kind of where we're different. Is I'm kind of in my thing, and you're just you're
definitely
getting in.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think something that was really big was just kind of, I mean, you aspire to be a writer, you always dream of it, I think it was really hard for me to prioritize, especially, when you don't have a book deal or you don't have a screenplay that's been optioned by a film or something. I think it's really hard to like find time and like give yourself the time to devote yourself to this passion and devote yourself to sitting down and putting words on the page. And I think it's so important that you carve out that time and that space. If this is what you love to do, really just, let yourself have the freedom to write and let yourself have the freedom to put things on a page and explore the stories that you really want to tell. I think that was always really hard, especially when I was starting out, just really giving myself the time and what I love doing, the opportunity to really work,
I can speak to that, what you're saying, Rachael, just a bit for screenwriters is, I find if you're just coming up and you're trying to, like Rachael said, find the time and find the motivation to stick with it, find a screenwriting group. I was in a screenwriting group, Twin Bridges, and it was everything to be held accountable for pages. And we go in and we read our pages and we read each other's work and we're commenting and critiquing and helping and giving notes and learning very much about the craft, from Joe Bratcher ran the class, Joe and Judy, his wife, and they taught at UCLA. So it was a very, very integral part of my getting started professionally was to have the motivation and the responsibility of showing up with the pages I said I would show up with, and then learning. And that's kind of where I got, I think, that whole it takes a village kind of thing, because everybody piles on and tells you what they think, and you're like fielding ideas, but do it. For screenwriters, that would be, I would say, if you are looking for something to hold your feet to the fire, get yourself in a writing group.
I would agree totally 100% with that. And then I think also, you have this space, or forming a writing group is really important, because then you not only have somebody to bounce your ideas off of and grow from, but you also have this accountability, kind of like what you just talked about, where, if you like show up for one of your weekly get-togethers and you don't have anything on the page, you're going to look a little foolish.
You're the asshole. You're the asshole.
For sure. Yeah. So that's really sound advice.
Wow. Amazing. Well, thank you ladies so much.
Thank you, Zibby.
Tell your next book, and Mikki, your next movie, and all that. I embarrassingly have not watched 5 Feet Apart, and I'm going to
You
do that.
should.
Something to do today. No, just kidding.
So excited.
You should.
Kyle and I are going to do, that's my plan. So I'll just call him and let him know. So I should have done it before we talked, but
well, you're fine.
Now I have
this was, we weren't talking about that one. So this one was more important today.
It's so good, and I'm so excited for you guys all this time.
Thank you so much, Zibby.
All right. Well, it's great
Thank you so much for having us on.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.